Hello, we are back. Episode 2, Season 2 of Bants, Being Female. So this all kicked off in the summer, actually, as part of the Women's Festival of Cycling, which seems forever ago. But it's only going to be 6 or 7 months before it's on us again. So do keep informed about the Women's Festival of Cycling. If you'd like to find out more about it, it's a whole plethora of events and information giving and community building, which happens in the summer. It's a festival, basically. This year we did it online. Next year, who knows how we're going to do it. But if you'd like to find out more, please do sign up to our women's newsletter. We've got a link popping up into the comments just now. Bants, Bikes and Being Female was started to really try and capture all of those people who started cycling during lockdown and weren't really sure how to navigate this mad world and all of the aspects that could go with it. We want to keep as many people cycling as possible, but we're also committed here at Cycling UK to bridging that gender gap that we have noticed happens to exist in cycling. But there's no reason for it. We do not need to have more men than women cycling. There's just no scientific evidence why that needs to be the case. So here we are with a bunch of awesome women who are hopefully inspiring and motivating and also informing those who are just getting into cycling. We've got some fantastic guests and today they're going to be talking about today's topic, which is, are you scared of cycling in the dark? So let's go. Let's bring Fran onto the screen.
Hi Anna.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
Cool. If you want to just give us a little bit of an intro about yourself. Actually, one sec. I just want to say to the audience watching as well, do join us and say hello as we're introducing the guests. Why don't you introduce yourselves as well? Let us know where you're watching from, what you're hoping to get out of this today, and just a little bit of a hello. So, Fran, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I'm Fran. I'm from Bella Vixen, which is the home of women's cycling. So we're an online women's cycle retailer. Trying to sell everything that women need to get out on their bike, which includes kit for night riding. I come from a mountain bike background, and actually I met my boyfriend 18 years ago at a 24-hour mountain bike race. So that involved riding in the dark. So I do have some experience of off-road in the dark, and also I regularly commute to work. So hopefully I've got some useful hints and tips I can give people today.
Excellent. And you noticed a little whoop whoop as I celebrate you joining the dark side, no pun intended there actually, with the mountain biking gang. So we're representing all disciplines of cycling here on today's panel. Charlene, not much of a mountain biker. You got your whole background in cycling as well. Tell us a little bit about who you are. You're on mute.
Hi.
Hi. We got you.
I'm Charlene Jones, and I am an ex-professional cyclist, and now I am a fitness professional through my own online business and face-to-face at the studio when I can be at the studio, Dynamic Fitness. And yeah, really excited to help inform people today and give my opinions.
So those of you tuning in who tune in regularly, hi, by the way, absolutely loving the fact that we do have a little bit of a core group that seem to tune in all the time. You'll know Fran and Charlene very well by now, which is great. And a newer face to Bants, Bikes and Being Female, but not that new to Cycling UK because we work with her quite regularly, is Lorraine.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, we can hear you, we can see you, all of it.
It's always a bit unnerving coming online, Zoom or whatever Teams or whatever you're using, because you never know, am I on the camera, am I muted or anything, and then you're having to try and find it. But hello, everybody.
Hello, I mean, that is the world we're living in at the moment, isn't it? Everything's online and we're having to adapt. What's your background in cycling?
I guess like most other folk, rode a bike as a kid and then just continue to ride when I was at college and uni, and I ride to work or to the shops or whatever. And latterly, I've just got into the engineering and just the beauty of the bike as a machine. So I've developed skills as a mechanic. And I'm absolutely loving getting more techie and getting my hands dirty, really, with the oil and just the beauty of the bikes, really.
Oh, we're delighted to have your experience. Also, we've got a comment here. I'd love to know if any of you either agree or disagree with Phil, because none of you had any input in the naming of this series. It's from Phil, and he says that he guesses the dreadful shortening of the word banter is here to stay. And I think I saw a little bit of a debate about this going on, asking what does bants even mean? Do you guys use the word bants in day-to-day life?
Well, Anna, I ride for a cyclocross team called Velo Bants, and the tagline is "Bike be a Bants." So, unfortunately, it is part of my life normally. No CX season this year, but yes.
Yeah, I take it. Yeah, it's part of your normality, isn't it? I say things like rad and sick as well, as if they're like perfectly normal things to say as well. And sometimes people look at me as like, "Are you trying to be from the 70s?"
I think it's an off-road thing though, Anna.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it?
It's a different kind of terminology to road riding, where they're a bit more old school, use traditional words. Mountain biker, they try to be a bit more
Actually, maybe we should do an episode about that, about the different tribes of cycling and the language that goes with it. You know, whether you end up wearing backwards caps or little peaky caps for road cycling, there's a whole world in it. And Jules Turner thinks that bants is fine so long as it's not rant. Well, I can't promise that that's not going to happen. And finally, I want to welcome onto this screen, representing the voice of Cycling UK, it's Jenny Fox. Hey, Jenny, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Anna.
How do you feel about the word bants? You can be honest.
No comment.
You're a roadie, aren't you? I can tell.
No, I'm not one of them either.
What is your background in cycling?
Well, I work for Cycling UK, so I work in our behaviour change and development team, which is all about getting more people on bikes. And I am a commuter cyclist. I cycle on holiday, leisure cyclist, and haven't yet ventured into either having a proper road bike or a proper mountain bike. I'm firmly in love with my bright yellow hybrid that does everything and gets me everywhere. So that's my cycling.
Excellent. So we've got a whole range of panelists today representing all the different styles of cycling. And this is getting out of hand. This is awesome. Jonathan has just said it's a laid back discussion. And then he's come up with this one, recumbents. And you know what? This will be perfect when it comes up, because for the next, the rest of the series from now on, well, not from this one, from the next one on, we're going to have Vicky Balfour, who's representing non-standard cycles. So all the bicycles, including recumbents, that are adapted to different body abilities. So I'm going to throw that one in when she joins us. But let's get on with today's topic, shall we? Because we're looking at winter this season. And we're talking today about cycling in the dark. So hands up, who here does it regularly? Okay, so we've got 3, and I'm not going to put my hand up either, actually. So we've got 3 out of 5 of us. Fran, what's your regular night riding look like then?
So regular night riding now is my commuting. So now the winter's drawn in, I leave the office and it's already dark. It's roughly an hour's ride home, all down country lanes, basically.
Excellent. Charlene?
Same, commute to and back from my work, but not as long. It's only between 15 and 25 minutes, and just depending on the wind and the traffic lights. But yeah, it's dark before this. For example, this morning I left at 5 a.m. And then when I came back, I'm back now. So, but a lot of my commuting is I do my work in the mornings and then the evenings. So usually at night at say 5 p.m. I would go back to the studio, and then I'd finish at like 9 and then come back, ride back on the bike, and it's dark.
You do love throwing in these masochistic statements, don't you? Last week you were talking about let's go cold swimming and have cold showers, and now you're like, let's go cycling at 5 o'clock in the morning.
How to do it? There's no cars on the road. It's brilliant.
That's a really good point, actually. Like it. Lorraine, what's your night riding at the moment?
Similar to Fran and Charlene, commuting, but also some of the sportives I've done in the past. Especially early in the season, you're finishing them about 8 in the evening, so it's dark anyway.
What is a sportive?
A sportive is, I love it. A sportive is basically a way to push yourself. It's like an endurance ride of a variety of lengths. It could be 30, 60, or even 100 miles. A 100-mile ride might sound overwhelming, but it's our version as cyclists of a marathon. So basically, it's something you do work up towards, but it's our version of a marathon.
Yeah.
It's doable on a bike. The longest I've done is 65 miles. I haven't quite made 100 yet.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I mean, 100 miles is a very long way. And sportives are actually great for goal setting as well. And for anyone who's getting into cycling, they are a really good way of motivating yourself. So glad we brought that up. So those of you who just put your hand up there saying that you are cycling in the dark, can you remember when you first had to do it? Was there ever a point where you thought, well, I'm going to have to do this in the nighttime now? Or is it just something that, you seem to have always done? Go on, Fran.
I guess for me, it didn't seem strange because I came from a mountain bike background where, as I mentioned earlier, I've obviously raced a 24-hour mountain bike race of which you're doing laps in the dark. So racing to then commuting at your own speed in the dark didn't seem a scary jump for me.
Yeah. Charlene?
Yes, I do remember now. I do remember. And it was when I was training for endurance for the longer distances on the road, when I started doing that. And we were doing a chain gang. So it was like, it's just an exercise you do on the road, and there's 2 lines, and there's a faster line, and then there's a slower line. Anyway, it was this group cycling training, and I was doing it maybe towards the end of summer, but then it was going into winter, and they kept it going, and then obviously the dark came because it was accessible for everyone who had a kind of 9 to 5 job. So it was later, it was maybe 6:30, and it just started getting dark, and all of a sudden I just went out on my bike, and then on the way back I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have any lights. And then everyone was like, Shah, you don't have any lights. And I was like, I didn't realize. So yes, that's why I remember, because I remember everyone in the chain gang saying, where's your lights? And I was like, it just came so fast. The dark just came so fast. And that was probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's so true. I remember situations like that as well, where I've just been caught out by the dark, and I ended up having to get the train home. Maybe I can't really remember the situation. Maybe it was like punctures or something like that on a ride, and then all of a sudden it's darker than you hadn't realised. Or something I always do as well. Like, I never know when the clocks go back, so I probably just went out cycling and didn't realise it was going to be getting dark an hour earlier. So that sort of leads you to prepping, because if you're not prepared, you're going to end up very suddenly in the dark with no lights, with everything, without the things that you need. So there's certain things actually by law that you need by cycling in the dark. So not only is it a bit foolish and maybe scary to not be prepared, it's actually illegal. Jenny, I'm going to come to you now to talk through just some of those things that you have to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the first thing to say is when is it dark? When are these things needed? So this is between sunset and sunrise. So obviously very different times depending on the month of the year, but worth bearing in mind that at the moment you're going to be needing all of these lights fairly early in the day. So at night, a lit front and rear light is compulsory, and having a red rear reflector as well. So not just the lights, but having the reflectors. The front light is always a white light, and that is positioned in the middle or on the right of your handlebars. And the backlight is always red, and again, that's positioned in the middle or on the right-hand side. You might see lots of people with flashing lights or just a steady stream of light. That's absolutely fine. If they are flashing, then it needs to be between 1 and 4 times per second. So some quick counting to go there to make sure that they're flashing at the right speed. And then you're going to want amber reflectors at the front and the back of your pedals as well. So lots of different ways to keep your bike lit up and making sure that you're really visible. You can have more lights if you want. You can, whether you have one on your helmet or on the back of your bag or whatever it is, that's absolutely fine, but making sure that you've got those 2 as an absolute minimum. And if you don't have the lights, then you could be liable for a fine. And so the penalty is a fixed £50 fixed penalty notice if you don't have the lights. So something really important to be prepared for, Charlene, when you're going out and you haven't got your lights. Something to be aware of, and making sure that you've got a good set of lights. And it's certainly something on my shopping list, so that I'm able to start cycling in the dark again, because my hand couldn't go up because I haven't got the lights at the moment. I've got a lost in moving house, so new lights are needed so that I can cycle in the dark again.
Oh, well, hopefully you'll, along with others, will pick up some tips today about what you need and what you might want as well. Because like you say, there's some legal minimum requirements, but that doesn't mean that that's the only time or the only amount of lights that you want to use. Would any of you use more lights or use them at different times? Charlene?
Yes, so definitely on the gloomy days where there's lots of clouds, obviously, you want to be seen. It doesn't just have to be dark. Just when you think it's a bit more muggy or raining and a lot of rain, you think that the drivers might have less visibility. And also, this one always freaks me out. So when when you drive and the sun is really low and it's shining in your eyes and you literally can't see the road.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you cannot see. So have lights then. So if you're on your bike and you're like, oh, I can't really see much, get your lights on. That's the time just after, like an hour or so after the sun has risen, and also just before the sun sets, and that sometimes can be the commuting time. So really important to be seen then. But also you don't have to, but I love reflective gear. Everything I have is reflective. So I'm just like a big Christmas ball on my bike. So I've got leggings that literally they have like a cool little pattern, which is
actually, Charlene, do you mind if I just stop you there, because we're gonna do a whole big thing on reflective clothing in a sec. Woo! So watch this space. And I saw Lorraine's hand went up a second ago. Did you have something that you wanted to add to that as well?
Oh yeah, I totally agree with Charlene about that. It is a strange light, particularly in the autumn and winter months, which can kind of cause drivers not to be able to see, much less us on bikes. But I picked up a tip from motorbikers, and I use lights all day, not just at night. Again, just to help me be visible. The other thing I do is, like Charlene, I like to be lit up like a Christmas tree. So I use steady lights, and I use that mainly so I can see, but I use flashing lights as well, so I can be seen. Because really, if you think about it, it's mainly only cyclists and probably dog walkers and pedestrians who use flashing lights. So it's a good way, perhaps, for other road users to identify you as well, especially at night. So I tend to use flashing as well as steady lights, front and back.
That's brilliant advice, actually. The see and be seen and differentiating between them and what the different lights could be used for. And there's a brilliant comment actually just come in from Peanut Butter and Jam. Is that a real name? Awesome. I want that on my birth certificate. Lights are so important front and all year round. I drive a 44-ton articulated lorry. I can assure you it makes a huge difference. Please don't think because it's daylight that you can be seen without them. Be safe, be seen. Fran, are you a fan of lights?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like Lorraine and Charlene. I would always have a rear light on, no matter what. Front lights slightly less important, mainly because you can see what's coming, so you can take action if needs be. So I would always ride with the rear light. But that also goes hand in hand with, I don't know if you're going to come onto this later, I would always ride a bar-mounted front light, but also I wear a light on my helmet. Because of the different beams and the different perspectives it gives you. Do you want me to talk about that now, or are you going to go into that later?
No, we'll come on to a little bit again about sort of lights that you use for seeing as opposed to being seen very shortly. But what I wanted to bring up is that something that I gave my husband, and he actually used, and I can't believe this because he had an early morning commute in the dark on a fast road, and I wanted to give him that extra bit of visibility, is some rainbow lights that you can put onto your wheels. So have any of you ever seen these before?
Oh, yeah.
Nick, producer Nick, I think that we've got a photo showing the kind of thing that I'm talking about. So these are little sort of LEDs that you can put into your spokes, and as the wheel goes round, they make all sorts of crazy patterns. And someone said a minute ago, lit up like a Christmas tree. Well, if that isn't lit up like a Christmas tree, I don't know what is. Just bear in mind, this isn't a legal requirement. You do not have to have these on your wheels, but I think they're awesome. So coming again, so those bike lights that you use, are they something that's really expensive? Is it something you need to invest in, or is it something that you get what you pay for? Fran?
I think, well, they don't have to be expensive. No, you don't have to buy expensive lights. But a lot of times, like a lot of things in cycling, you get what you pay for. And if you make your choices wisely at the start and you invest well, you can get yourself a decent light that will last you for quite a long time if you look after it.
And what do you use?
I have got an exposure front light, but it's not particularly bright. I only ride with 400 lumens, and I'm quite happy riding with 400 lumens because it gives me enough, a wide enough beam to see the road. And I find some of the really, really bright ones dazzle car drivers. So that's where you've got to be careful what you invest in. But rear light wise, I use the Garmin Varia radar. I don't know if you've heard about that, which is the one that links to your Garmin, and it actually warns you on the screen that there's car coming. So you've got the visual on your Garmin with the little dots, which is the car as it's approaching you, but it also adjusts the flashing and the brightness of the light for the car, so it gets brighter and flashes more as the car's approaching you.
Wow, that is awesome. It's like automated the way, sometimes when I'm driving a car and I have full beam on, but then you need to remember to take off the full beam when someone's coming towards you because you don't want to dazzle them. But that makes an automated system for cyclists. Love it.
Yeah. But you just have to think about what you're going to use the light for, and therefore what kind of lumens you need, because it is possible to buy something that is designed to be more specifically off-road, like 3000 lumens, that if you rode on the road and you tilted it at the wrong angle, it is going to blind car drivers, and then it becomes a problem in itself and actually creates, a bit more danger. Yeah,
absolutely. Charlene, what lights do you use?
Just standard lights. Just got standard lights from Aldi.
Are they something that you charge, or are they battery?
So the front one is AA to AA battery, and the back one is rechargeable, more recent. The other one's from when I first got my lights. So I'm actually listening to Fran and thinking, I need an upgrade. So I'll get those links. Thank you very much.
Excellent. And Lorraine, what do you use?
On the front, I use Lazime, Light Fran. I find I don't really need more than about 400 lumens, with all the street lights as well. I don't need more than that. And then I have cheap ones that flash that flash bright, so I look pretty and flashy as a cyclist. That doesn't sound right, but hopefully you know what I mean. And on the back, I use an icon, and that can link to your phone. So if you fall off or something, you can arrange it so you can inform your next of kin and that kind of thing. It's a really fancy one, but it's but you can also alter the brightness, because again, I don't want it too bright, but I want it just so bright so that people can see basically that I'm a cyclist. And
yeah, I love the way you pulled it back there from Lorraine flashing whilst she goes down dark street. This is another backpedal moment. I think you did very well. But you touched on something there that I would like to go into, which is the difference between cycling at night in urban environments and in sort of quiet streets and country lanes and stuff like that, because they both sort of bring up different challenges and different safety aspects as well. So Lorraine, you're really nodding along. So do you want to say something about that?
Absolutely. In terms because I'm an urban cyclist, so there's lots of street lights, but as I was saying before, the 400 lumens gives me enough light. If I have to go down, I'm a Yorkshire woman, we talk about ginnels. Ginnel is a word for alleyways. If you have to go down an alleyway and it's a bit dark, there's more than enough light to see that, and then you can carry on your way. But when I've been on sportives, and they often take it out from urban areas, out into the countryside, and it's absolutely beautiful at night, but very dark because there's not as much street lighting, and I find that I have to use something slightly more powerful, perhaps 600 or 800 lumens, just so that I can actually see where I'm going, really. But I tend to tilt those down so I'm not, if there's cars coming or something, I'm not going to dazzle, really. But yeah, I use something a little bit more powerful because it's beautiful out in the country, but it's very, very dark. But that's what makes it lovely.
This makes it so lovely. And so carry on talking about lights and urban environments. Fran, did you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, so we had an example. We've got an example of this actually from our Villa Vixen forum that somebody posted this week, that she was riding through town, and she had, I think she mentioned 4 lights on the front, and somebody coming the other way told her that she was blinding them and she didn't understand. She said, well, there's no such thing as too many lights. Probably 90% of people responded to her quite politely saying that there is something as too many lights. You know, if you've got all of them flashing as well, it's just going to detract. Nobody's going to have a clue what's coming towards them. If you just see this array of flashing lights at different heights, it's like you can't actually define what that thing is. So that's just another point to actually think about, you know, how many lights, what brightness you've got, all of that kind of thing. I say lucky, I don't ride through any cities to get to work for my hour. I literally leave my house within 1.5 miles. I'm on country roads, and it's country roads all the way. I have one set of traffic lights to go through. So that's partly why I then run with the 2 lights. Obviously, Lorraine mentioned about if she was going cross country, she'd put slightly stronger light on. I just ride with my normal 400 lumen bar light, and then I put the helmet light on as well to give me that extra beam that I want going down country roads. And also it's then pointing where I'm looking, where I might be cornering, particularly at speed, because I do have some descents and things to go down.
Excellent. And there's a question here from Liz who wants to know how you cope with potentially being dazzled by oncoming car headlights when you're going at night, when you're going out at night. Has that happened to you guys? Have you experienced that? Yeah. Fran's just not experienced it, which is great. Fran has.
I have experienced it. It's a really difficult thing because once you're dazzled, you can't really come back from it other than to try to avert your eyes from what is causing I suppose, a bit of night blindness. It's amazing how much you can ride without, so for example, I've occasionally ridden home from work and it's been a full moon and I've turned my lights off, the front light, when I'm going across a deserted patch of land to ride by the moonlight, just so I can have the experience of hearing the owls and the badgers. And it's amazing how much you can see because your eyes adapt to not having street lights and things around. But that dazzling one's a really difficult, I don't think there is an answer to it really, unfortunately. I don't know if anyone else has got an experience of it.
No. I just love that Lorraine doesn't get dazzled because she does all the dazzling. I also want to know, what noise does a badger make?
Yeah.
Oh no, now you've said it. I'm not going to try and do an animal sound. It's kind of, I suppose it's a little bit grunty. I've had them scurry across the road. It's a bit, I'm not going to try and do it. It'll just come out all wrong.
Okay, we can all imagine. And when you're cycling back in the countryside, do you ever feel, when it's nighttime, do you ever feel like nervous that you can't be seen? You know, is it a worry for you?
It's not a worry for me. I understand why people do it. That's a question we get a lot. A lot of women don't have that confidence. I think I do just because I've ridden for a long time. I think having, more than one light, i.e. the flashing, rear lights, one flashing, one static, makes me feel a bit more confident. But for me, no, I think Jenny may have some experience otherwise.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I guess, with the thing with country roads and having done some rural cycling, previously and in the evenings and that sort of thing, at least, if you've got your light on and you know that your light is of a good quality and you've got enough lumens or whatever it might be, that actually you're going to be seen quite easily by other road users because you've got that light, probably potentially more so than in the daytime if it's if there's a number of corners and turns and that sort of thing on the road, that at least with a good quality light, oncoming traffic or other road users behind will probably have more warning to see you because of the lights that you've got on your bike.
Yeah, I definitely find that as well. Sometimes if you're coming around corners as well and you've got that light, you're actually giving a bit of pre-warning. And actually, that reminds me, has any of you seen those lights by, is it Blaze? And they're using them on lots of the city bikes now, which actually shine a light on the bicycle into the car in front of you. So what's the thinking behind that, Lorraine?
I think for me, it's... before anybody says anything, I'm a car driver as well, before anyone says anything. But I think when you're in the car, no disrespect to other car drivers, and the music's playing and you've had a hard day, you're just in your own world. So in terms of something being signaled on the road to say, hello, cyclist, I think is a positive thing. Because you do kind of get trapped in that metal container into your own world, and sometimes you need something to say, hello, I'm here. And I think that's how it works, really, and works quite effectively. I think they look good. Yeah,
I think there's also an element of when that light is shone onto the road in front of you, sometimes accidents can happen where road users are coming out of a side road and they haven't looked properly, which they should and they must. But shining that light onto the road in front of you can give a little bit of advance warning to people coming out of side roads. Charlene?
Yeah, just to add to that, I also quite enjoy the night riding in terms of you can see a car coming before it's round the corner because you can see the lights. So actually it gives you a little bit more warning as well, especially in the corners. And yeah, just makes you a little bit more vigilant. There's loads of cars during the day, so it's easy to kind of miss one. But at night, they've all got their lights on, like 99.9% of the time.
Yeah, I really agree with that actually. And again, it brings us back to the point of seeing and being seen. Like those 2 points are so vital. Yes, you want to be seen, but you also need to see everything that's going on as well. And there can be a benefit of those lights being shone from other road users at night time more than in the daytime. What about cycling down sort of quiet roads at night? This has come up occasionally. I don't know if it's come up in the Velo Vixen group, probably Fran. It's come up in Cycling UK Women Chat about nervousness being a lone cyclist, especially in urban environments at night time. Has any of you experienced that, you know, having to drive that? What was it called? Gunnies that you said, Lorraine? Like
yeah, and I do when I'm out at night on the bike. I must admit, there are really quiet roads that I make sure that I'm riding up the middle of them, but I'm lucky they tend to be well lit anyway. So yeah, I understand that, but I would say to anybody who's listening, watching, don't see that as a way to stop you getting onto your bike and going for it, because I generally find, you know, there's a nice mix in terms of most routes, and I find that I can organize so that there is a variety of busier roads and slightly quiet roads, so that I'm not necessarily just on quiet roads as a sole rider all the time, but just a variety, really.
Yeah, and people do feel nervous often for different reasons. It's not just the traffic thing. It's about feeling alone and vulnerable.
Yeah,
perhaps.
as a woman, I wasn't even thinking about the traffic. It was it's a natural, whether it's a reality, because the reality seems to be that it's predominantly younger men that are attacked. But for many women, there is that kind of fear as well, for myself included. So that's why I vary up my route. It's for me, it's about positioning, really.
Yeah, that sense of vulnerability. Yeah, Jenny?
Listen, I think this also comes back to the sorts of things we were talking about in the summer, Anna, about people starting riding and how to sort of build your confidence when you start cycling. I feel like it's a bit of that as well. It's about route planning. It's about, you know, knowing your journey and where you're going, and the route that you take in the summer when it's all light and you're, you know, whizzing about down the alleys or whatever might change when it's darker, because actually you want to follow a more well-lit route if that helps build your confidence as you start doing the night riding. And, you know, like you say there, the road positioning and understanding all those sorts of bits, but also about letting, you know, we talked before about if you're doing longer routes, or perhaps this comes back to that again about letting somebody know when you're leaving, or, you know, letting somebody know that, right, I'm heading off now, I'm cycling this route, and, you know, I'll catch you in, I should be back in 20 minutes or whatever it might be. And I'm sure others of you will have experience of tech and stuff that can help with that. But I think, like, with all those sorts of things, it's about, you know, understanding where you're going, being confident in the route that you're taking, and not feeling like you have to take the same route all the time because that's the route you always do. In the same way that we talked about the route that you drive or the route that you walk might not be the route that you cycle because it doesn't make the most sense. So do those practice routes and take the time to sort of plan the night route as you would plan the wet weather route, or the, you know, you might want to take the canal if it's been raining loads because those paths might be underwater, but actually this well-lit road might be really good for your nighttime winter commute or something like that. So I guess there's lots of different variables, but I think if we're talking about it purely in a confidence sense, there's lots of things you can do to give yourself a bit of a boost as you start that next stage of your cycling journey.
Definitely, some really fantastic points there actually about route planning. Brilliant. And you also mentioned about tech, like, so there's some tech options that you can use. Fran, do you want to delve into some of those?
Yeah, well, the one I've used is you can use Strava Beacon. If you use Strava as a premium user, you can connect it with your Garmin, and when you set
what is Strava?
Okay, good point. Strava is an online sports platform where you can record all your activities and your friends can see what you're doing. You can add pictures, or you can just use it to keep it private and just analyze your own rides. But when I set off, because I have this Strava Premium app, it will send a text to my boyfriend and it will say, Fran White has started a bike activity, and he can then actually plot me. So he can see that I am 5 minutes away from home on the last little stretch of the A41, and he'll know then for what time I'm going to get home. And then if you don't appear an hour and a half later, he knows that, you know, something's happened to me, and therefore can phone me or come out to look for me, because he's seen, you know, you can actually see the route that I've been riding along. So that's quite a good thing for people that might lack confidence of riding on their own, or they're concerned about, you know, how will anybody know if I make it home? Because you could set up anybody as your point of contact. It doesn't have to be somebody local, but just somebody that knows that, you know, in half an hour you should be at home.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, now we're going to talk about reflectivity. Yay! But before we go too deep into it, Cycling UK is a charity, and from a campaign angle, there's some things that we want to press home, that it really is personal choice. Jenny, are you able to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, just a little bit. I guess we don't sort of want to go into it too much, but absolutely it is about personal choice. And we've already talked a little bit about, you know, whether it's having the rainbow spoke things on your wheels, or whether it's Charlene being lit up like a Christmas tree. You know, a lot of it does come down to personal choice. But I guess for us as a charity, we're not going to actively encourage or say that you must wear reflective clothing, because it can, in same ways with other conversations. And I actually saw something on a Facebook thread this morning about people commenting about it, that it can turn into victim blaming, or take the attention away from needing proper infrastructure and proper driver awareness and all those other things that sort of go along with supporting cyclists, or more people to cycle on the roads at any time of day, night, summer, winter, whatever it might be. So again, you know, personal choice, do what you want to do, but it's not something that you must do, aside from having a couple of really good lights and the reflectors on your pedals and that sort of thing, to make sure that you can be seen and see effectively when you're out cycling at night.
Yeah, thank you. Really, really appreciate that. And out of choice, how many of you do choose to wear reflective clothing when you're cycling at night? A few of you. So Fran, not so much. Lorraine, what do you like to put on?
For me, it's all about comfort. We're in the depths of winter, so whatever I'm wearing. So this time of the year, I wear a poncho, cycling poncho, and that has a little bit of reflective piping. Nothing mega. For me, it's about the actual items that I'm wearing. Are they going to keep me warm? Are they going to keep me dry? Because there's no bad weather in cycling, is there, folks? It's only bad planning. So for me, it's just, you know, those little kind of bits of recycling piping. For me, it's all about the lights, really.
Charlene, tell us a little bit about some of the clothing that you like to wear.
I mean, it's just like a hobby. I'm just collector. And I don't know, because so my job is I'm always in lycra or just leggings, because I'm a personal trainer, I'm online, I'm doing all these activities, and you know, I don't get to wear nice clothes, so I'm like, I'm gonna look nice on the bike. So I'm gonna have a look at what's out there, and get bright and get seen. So I really like Sweaty Betty. I've done lots of reflective gear recently. It's not cycling specific, but I don't always wear padded shorts as well, because my commute's can be 15 minutes to 18 minutes, so it doesn't really matter too much, and you just get used to the saddle. But I got some reflective gear from there, and also from Velvixen. I didn't even realise it. The Zeta jacket has little like glistening sprinkles of reflective in it, and pixelated pockets. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Yeah, it's more just a hobby, and it does no harm, you know. I really want to be seen because I'm in the city in Glasgow, so there's lots of hustle and bustle going around, and as you said, too many lights can be a bit off-putting for the drivers. So just as long as they can see my body, and then I've got a few lights, then that's good. And also I've got a light that goes around my wheel, and it's green, and that flashes. So I am literally like a Christmas tree.
I get the impression that this.
People toot at me and they're like, yeah, and I'm like, yeah. And I had a taxi driver drive up at lights beside me when the lights were red, and he looked out and he goes, "Oh, darling, you are amazing. I can see you a mile off." And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, people are loving it. Like literally, like taxi drivers, because they're out in their cars all the time, they must, when they see someone who is well seen, they must be like, yes, yes, you know, like, come on, girl. So yeah, I love it. I love all attention.
And as I was going to say, it's going beyond safety and being seen. It's more just like, Glasgow, Charlene is here.
I'm here. No, it's a hobby.
Fran, what's your personal stance on reflective clothing?
It's amazing stuff. The only reason I don't wear it is because it doesn't really come in skin tight lycra. And when I commute to work, I'm riding down country roads for an hour. So I wear, proper skin tight cycling lycra. So I just tend to go down the bright clothes route rather than the reflective route. So I would just, I've got like bright orange coats and all manner of, brightly coloured tops that I would wear instead. And I'm pretty happy that, car drivers can see me, given how bright I am. But at Vela Vixen, we do sell a lot of reflective stuff. So we have things like this Provis coat.
That looks very shiny.
You can slightly see the shine actually on the screen, can't you?
Yeah. It looks quite trendy. You see a lot of kids wearing that type of thing. You know what I mean? It's very trendy.
I need it. And
yeah, when it flashes on that, because actually when you see it in the flesh, what I'm seeing in this studio here is it's a very dull grey, but I can see on the screen already that it is quite bright, and that's without like a car actually flashing on it. So you've got something like that you can wear, but these also come coloured. So you could get a blue one, but when the car lights flash, it goes grey like this. Or I suppose this is when I say I wear brightly coloured, I would just go down this route. So this in itself isn't reflective. It's got reflective details on it. And it has a big like reflective triangle on the rear.
I like that.
So we do sell a lot of those kind of winter commute jackets.
Nice.
So they're Provis, but also, as Charlene's highlighted, the Vela Vixen Climb and Conquer coats that we showed you last week, that in themselves are just brightly coloured. The pockets on the rear, you wouldn't know just from looking at it in daylight. But if anyone's got one and hasn't done it, take a picture with the flash on. The pockets are reflective. So the pockets will have you lit up like a beacon when the car lights flash on you. And I do know there is a woman in our VV forum that loves the reflective tights that Charlene's gone on about from Sweaty Betty, but she wears our padded pants under them. So that's another option is, depending on your commute and how long it is, you don't always have to be in lycra. I'm in lycra just because my commute's longer. But, for Charlene, riding 5 miles through town, padded pants and some bright Sweaty Betty reflective tights is as good as anything else, despite I want people to spend money with us, but
But yeah, in the interest of being an expert here and letting everyone know all our options, that's great. We're going to spend the last bit of the show talking about off-road night riding, which interestingly Jenny has also had experience in, which is, you're declaring yourself someone doesn't, likes a little bit of leisure cycling, fair weather. But looking forward to hearing you picking your brains about that. I've just seen this comment, and I want to go off on a tangent just because it makes me laugh, just for a couple of minutes. From Dean, saying we need a catwalk slot. Oh, I totally know what you're saying now. Right, this is where my brain went. Can I tell you? I've got this dog, this new dog, which I've been training to be a trail dog to follow my bike. The dog is useless, but do you know who's really good? The cat. The cat takes the dog and follows me when I go cycling on my bike. It's really funny. Check out my Instagram. There's some funny stories. It's hilarious. But that's not. You weren't talking about cat walking your cat with your bike, were you, Dean? No.
Fashion, Anna. Fashion.
Really
cool. Velo Vixen be bringing out some sort of catwalk. We should do a catwalk video. Night flashing. I've got vision for this. I'll speak to you after.
I think you're the one that's backpedaling now, Anna.
Anna,
I think you're the one that's backpedaling now.
Anna, I think if you Google Velo Vixen Christmas video 2018, maybe 17, we did a really good comedy Christmas video that involved Provis coats and flashing lights. I'll see if I can find it.
Dig it out. Maybe Nick can do that as we're chatting now, just, especially for Dean. Okay, moving swiftly on from my catastrophic error there, we're going to talk about off-road night riding. So this is a brilliant activity, and I want to bring it up because many people have got into cycling this summer, maybe a little bit wary about continuing that journey through the dark and cold winter months. So how about doing some off-road cycling? That means you don't have to go anywhere near any traffic whilst you're building your confidence. And it's a really, really cool activity to do during the winter. Now, Jenny, you didn't actually do it through the winter, I don't think, but you have done some off-road night riding. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
I have. So this was last time. It was actually on like the hottest day of the year, so about as far from the deepest, darkest winter as you could possibly get. But a group of us did an overnight bivvy. So this was my first experience of off-road night riding and bivvying. One I'm probably more likely to do again than the other. And so we cycled out after work with our panniers and all of our stuff on our bikes. Cycled to the pub because that's obviously where the first stop on your night rides always are. So stopped at the pub, had dinner, and then cycled after it was dark down the country roads and off into the hills and did some night riding through the hills to find the perfect spot to camp. So that was kind of our night ride, and we talked a little bit earlier about sort of being nervous and stuff, and I guess I'm not I cycle quite a bit, but I'm not most experienced or confident cyclist, so I was nervous, but it is incredibly exhilarating actually. And I think one of the best things about that was a couple of the guys that we were with had really good lights that were perfect for the off-road cycling, where there is no other sort of light or anything to give you any sort of sense of direction. So their lights were perfect, but it was super fun and just really just a really great experience to then pitch up somewhere in the middle of the woods where we camped out overnight and slept under the stars. And then Charlene, you were talking earlier, I think, about sunrises. So our, sort of sunrise cycle back to the office again in the morning was just wonderful. So yeah, it was. The trails were good, and the route certainly wasn't planned. It was more about finding somewhere to camp than it was about a sort of an off-road cycle as such. But yeah, a great way to sort of experience the countryside around us a little bit more and just do something completely different that was a really fun and kind of exciting like evening activity really after a long day in the office. So yeah, that was my kind of experience of it, which I guess was the full night experience because we didn't go home after the cycle, but yeah, great fun, and I think a great way to just sort of push yourself a little bit, I guess, and challenge yourself a bit to do something different and face some of those fears. Certainly riding on the roads in the evening doesn't seem quite so intimidating when you've done it in the pitch black of the Surrey Hills overnight.
Yeah, there's someone in the comments that's also doing it in the Surrey Hills. Zoe, that sounds really, really cool. And you do it with the kids. What a lovely family activity. Love that. They must find it so exhilarating. It's magical doing things like that with children. Awesome. So just to give you an idea of what night riding off-road looks like, we've got a couple of pictures from Exposure. So this is a company that provides lights specifically for going off-road. So as you can see there from their lights, they really do light up the path ahead of you whilst everything around you is totally pitch black. And it becomes a hobby and an activity in itself. We've got another picture there just to give the audience a bit of an idea of what we're talking about. So you can have headlamps, you can have bar mounts, and you can see where you're going with those lights. So it's pretty cool. Fran, you've done quite a lot of it. Night riding, as it's called, and I think it's sort of called night riding, although obviously all riding at night is technically night riding, but kind of when you're in mountain biking circles and you go, I'm going night riding, it means something specific. So what's it like for you?
It's just brilliant because you don't get all the street lights, you're away in the countryside, you barely come across other people other than the people that you're out there with. You see all these animals that you would never see normally. You hear all these sounds. The thing to highlight, though, about night riding is if you're night riding, obviously when you're off-road, you can use what lights you want because you're off-road, so there's no law in relation to having to have a bike light on your bike. You could technically just ride with a headlamp. But riding with a bar mount, you lose, a helmet lamp, you lose the sense of perception and depth. So you only get that from a handlebar mount because it's all to do with the lights and the shadows. So it's quite important to think about, the lights that you're using when you go off-road. But it is just such a different experience. It's quite exhilarating and rewarding, really. And you can generally finish the night with something like a trip to the chip shop and sit on a wall and eat chips in the cold, dark, damp, wet. And you wouldn't do it normally, but it tops up an awesome ride.
And I know exactly what you're saying there about depth perception. There's something a little bit weird about night riding, and you can't really tell how fast or slow you're going because somehow, whilst you do have that light that points at the path ahead of you, that understanding of 3D distance is kind of unusual, isn't it?
Well, the narrow beam that you get on your helmet, it reflects straight back to your eyes. So you don't get the shadow, you don't get any shadow, which therefore you lose the sense of depth and perception. That's what happens. Whereas when you've got the bar mount and it's wider, you can see your own shadows, and therefore you can see potholes, you can see tree roots, you can see whatever it is that you need to see. And an interesting point you said then was about speed. I did my first commute home in the dark probably a couple of weeks ago with the clocks changing, and I haven't ridden my commute in the dark for a while. And I got home and I thought, I must have smashed it. Like, I rode so fast, I felt so good, I had a tailwind, downloaded my Garmin. It was like, oh, come on, I have to like, that wasn't fast, which was fine, but it's back to that whole thing about it being dark and having no sense of visuals or anything going past you made me think that I was ripping it up, and I really wasn't. I was just going along at a nice speed, and I was happy. But yeah, it was quite a weird experience getting back into it.
Yeah, and Zoe, who's our audience right now, who does it in the Surrey Hills, says it's so true. The smallest routes look like massive with the shadows, and tiny drops look like cliffs, which is why good lights are key. So I guess what we're sort of suggesting here is, whilst you can go off into the woods with your normal bike lights, if you'd like to take up night riding as an activity where you're away from traffic, you're in the woods, but you're riding at nighttime, making the most of the day that you're awake, then maybe investing in a proper pair or set of lights would be a good idea to make this activity more enjoyable. We've got a link to that in the comments to Exposure lights. There's a few different brands out there. Those are the guys who happen to give us the pictures, so really grateful for that. Right, we are going to wrap it up now, just on time. Well, wrapping it up on time, but we're going to go over because we're going to do what we usually do and ask you guys to pick out a comment or a question from the audience that you would like to highlight. So anybody, as soon as you're ready, pop your hand up. There we go, Charlene, and we'll start with you.
Right. I find bright, reflective clothing better when it's gloomy weather than light. So I'm going to pick that one because I'm all about the reflective gear. It's been so fun today, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and really excited for next week already.
Can't wait to have you, Charlene, and thanks for your input. You always provide, I think, entertaining stories, a lot of passion, and some great tips as well. Thank you, Margaret, for your comments. Anyone else has got any comments or questions, want to squeeze them in right now? We might get picked up by one of our panel. Lorraine, you're itching to go. Come on.
I think Natalie makes a really, really important point for us urban cyclists, avoiding pothole puddles, as you never know how deep they are, whether that's during the day or the night. And, it's the reason for having really good lights. You know what I mean? But avoid them. Great piece of advice.
Excellent. Yeah, it's really good. And actually, I think Fran's brought this up before as well. When it's a pothole when it's a puddle, assume it's a pothole. Mm-hmm. Avoid it. You don't know what's underneath that water. You might think it's just that, and it could be that. Fran, have you got a comment or a question you'd like to highlight?
Yes, I saw it earlier actually. Janet Barnard's. I have 2 apps on my phone, OS Locate and What 3 Words. So if I need help, I can use one of those to give my exact location. So for those quickly who don't know what the What 3 Words app is, it's an app that's used by all emergency services now. It will tell you every single place in the world has got 3 words, and they're all individual, and it will highlight it down to something like a 3-meter square area. So if you phone 999 and say, where are you? You download your app and you give them the 3 words, of which I'm currently at Detective Beaks Twins, and they will know exactly where you are. So it's a good one for those that needs a bit more confidence and a safety boost.
Excellent. Thank you, Fran, and thank you, Janet. And thank you, Janet, for your enthusiasm and watching these shows as well. We do see your name. Really, really love having that core audience. It's awesome. Jenny, anything you'd like to talk about?
Well, there's all sorts of things I'd like to talk about, but I'm going to pick out a comment from the chat, if that's all right.
No, well, I mean, we're all here for you.
Jenny, you're right, man.
I'm going to go with Zoe Woodman's comment about living in Surrey Hills doing night rides with the kids. I know you mentioned it already, but I just love the idea of them all going off for adventures together in the night time. And I think what a great way to kind of explore the countryside around you that you live in. It's I really like that one. So that's mine. Cool. So thanks for having me back.
Thanks.
After my hiatus.
It's been awesome to have you. Great contributions, great stories. I hope everyone's enjoyed watching today. Don't forget that if you're watching this back, so you're not watching it live, you can get in touch with us on our Cycling UK Facebook page or via email or via the website. Let us know what questions and comments you have. We will be watching and we will be listening. But a special thank you to those who have managed to tune in live today and get those questions and comments in for us. It really helps us enjoy it that little bit more and having your involvement as well. So that's it from Cycling UK, from Fran, Charlene, Jenny, Lorraine and me, Anna. Hopefully we'll see you next week. What are we talking about? Oh goodness, we're going to be back anyway this time next week, lunchtime with Bants Bikes, Being Female, season 2. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.